A very good evening and welcome. This is Weekend Primetime News here on MTV and Shakti TV. I'm Ramesh Irugal Bandara. As always, let's start off with looking at headlines today.
70 years of the UN celebrated in Colombo.
අපේ ආණ්ඩුවේ ක්‍රියාකාරීත්වය තුළ අපි පෙන්눔 කළා එක්සත් ජාතීන්ගේ සංවිධානයේ ප්‍රඥප්තිය තුළ සමාජික රටක් වශයෙන් අපි අපේ වගකීම් සහ යුතුකම් නිසි ලෙස ඉටු කරන බව.
Maldives Vice President Adib arrested over bomb plot to kill the president. Low atmospheric turbulence to result in heavy rains across the island. Protest against Darshini Fernandopoulos in Katana.
On to the stories in detail now. The year 2015 marks an important milestone in Sri Lanka's relationship with the United Nations. It is the 70th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations and also the 60th anniversary of Sri Lanka's entry into the UN system. The celebrations took place in Colombo this morning under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena.
The celebrations were held today under the tagline, Our UN, Ape UN, Engel UN, amidst the participation of many dignitaries. Since its independence in 1948, Sri Lanka has contributed to the UN system in multiple ways, including its norm setting. Sri Lanka has produced important UN professionals, including 3 Under-Secretary Generals, Dr. Jayantha Dhanapala, Dr. Radhika Kumaraswamy and Professor Mohan Munasinghe, and a Vice President of the International Court of Justice, Justice C.G. Veeramantri. Sri Lankan heads of state and the aforementioned persons and other high-level officials have played a vital role in international development by influencing global policy and thought leadership in diverse areas, ranging from the law of the sea, disarmament, children in armed conflict, and climate change. Today's visit to the UN compound was incidentally the President's first ever visit there.
ගෙවිගේ මාස 10කට ආසන්න කාලය තුල අපේ ආණ්ඩුවේ ක්‍රියාකාරීත්වය තුල අපි පෙන්눔 කළා.
Through the activities of the government over the past 10 months, we have shown to the countries in the United Nations that as a country, we have been fulfilling the responsibilities and the duties that we are committed to. We have engaged in good governance to strengthen democracy, freedom and human rights of our people and eradicate poverty whilst nourishing the economy so that the per capita income will also increase. I recall a time when I was a minister of the previous government. One of our very own ministers commenced a fast opposite this compound, challenging the United Nations. Then the former state leader arrived here and made him drink king coconut. That is how we lost our friendship back then. However, we are pleased that we have been able to win back that friendship over the past 10 months.
ඒ විදිහට අපේ මිත්‍රශීලී භාවය අපි ඈඩ් කරගෙන තිබුණා. නමුත් ගෙවිගේ මාස 10 අපි තාමත්ම සතුටු වෙනවා. ඒ මිත්‍රත්වය ගොඩනැගුණු මාසයක් විදියට.
The UN Assistant Secretary General for Political Affairs, Miroslav Yencha, delivered the UN Secretary General's message.
The world faces many crises, and the limits of collective international action are painfully clear. Yet, no single country or organization can address today's challenges alone. The timeless values of the UN Charter must remain our guide. Our shared duty is to unite our strength to serve we the peoples.
We in the UN note with sincere appreciation Sri Lanka's renewed engagement with all its partners. This engagement of trust and cooperation culminated in the consensus resolution of the United Nations Human Rights Council in September this year. We hope that the ongoing political transition and reform in Sri Lanka will build the foundation on which reconciliation and durable peace can be achieved for all communities, for all Sri Lankans.
Thousands of Sri Lankan citizens have contributed and continue to provide their noble services to UN peacekeeping efforts around the world. Fallen Sri Lankan UN peacekeepers were remembered at this event, which also saw the participation of the Prime Minister, Speaker and other key political figures.
චන්ද්‍රිකා කුමාරතුංග ජනාධිපති යටතේ අපි තවත් මානව හිමිකම්.
During the time of President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, we agreed to the human rights agreements. We had a special place in the United Nations. However, unfortunately, over the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we lost that trust due to the officials who were not aware of that. We clashed with the world. Sri Lanka couldn't move forward. On one hand, we have been able to bring about peace and justice as well as strengthen the economy. The United Nations and its other agencies have come forward with us, and that is how we need to act.
ඉදිරියට ඇවිල්ලා ක්‍රියා කළ යුතුයි කියලා අතීතයේ වාගේ මම මෙතන ප්‍රකාශනය කරනවා.
A first day cover and a stamp was also launched to mark the twin celebrations today.
Welcome back to the news. President Maithripala Sirisena says that a main objective of the government is to create a healthy generation of people. The president made this statement during an event held at Royal College, Colombo today.
The Heartbeat 2015 walk was organized under the guidance of the UNESCO Society of Royal College, Colombo, with the intention of overcoming adverse health habits. The walk got underway from the Nelumpokuna roundabout following the blessings of religious leaders of all faiths. The President, Prime Minister, Ministers, MPs and other invitees as well as students from different schools took part in the walk.
Minister Sajith Premadasa expressed the following views at a meeting in Veligattala, Hambantota today.
When they wake up, eat and go to sleep, all they think of is hybrid. Even when they attempt to travel abroad, they take a hybrid passport to the airport. They are the ones who raised this hybrid issue. This has turned into a boomerang onto them. Their IDs and passports are all hybrid.
State Minister Palitharange Bandara, speaking in Madurankuliya, commented on Vimal Veeravansa.
Vimal Veeravansa was one of the leading figures in the patriotic campaign. He wanted to travel to Europe and Italy. He says why he was to go there. He says that he wants to make the people of the world aware of what he's been done under the Maitri rule. He says that he was arrested to prevent that from happening. He had used a passport which was said to be lost and obtained a visa to travel to Europe. He got caught at the airport and was taken to court. Then he was granted bail. Even when the wrong is done, the Prime Minister comes to his aid to allow him to go to Europe and spread whatever the tales are.
Objections were raised over an event presided over by Minister of City Planning and Water Supply Sudarshini Fernando Pulle. A group including coordinator of the United National Party for Katana, Rosie Fernando, voiced their protest.
An event to commend the employees of the Multi-Operative Society Limited in Katana was held at its office in Demanhandia in Katana. During the event, a group led by Chief Coordinator of the Katana Electorate for the UMP, Rose Fernando, arrived at the location and demonstrated. A correspondent stated that the pandal that was erected for the event had been vandalized by a group last evening.
There's a corrupt governance at present. The people have taken to the street to remove this corrupt governance. The dogs bark, but the caravan goes on. We do not know the reason behind the protest. Don't know whether the protest was against the employees who have gained a claim. We view this as an insult to the tribute we honored them with. Like I said, the dogs bark, but the caravan goes on. We are challenging those who want to throw their first stone against those who are not charged with anything. The ones who are pointing fingers are the very ones who are not suitable to speak about corruption.
The Department of Meteorology says that a low atmospheric turbulence is developing in the seas to the southeast of the country. The department adds that heavy rains could be expected in the coming days.
The inter-monsoon rains are affecting many parts of Sri Lanka, resulting thunder showers. Gale winds were experienced in Colombo this evening. The Department of Meteorology says that gale winds can be experienced during the inter-monsoon season. It adds that thunder showers accompanied by gale winds will be experienced in a limited area during a short period of time.
In addition, the conventional process, a cloud development, can be witnessed in the southern parts of the island. Today, there was a rapid development in clouds in the area. In addition, there will be an atmospheric turbulence to the east of the country. The period from November to December is the period where cyclones can be experienced in the Bay of Bengal. Rains can be experienced across the island.
Vegetable farmers in the central hills have been severely affected by the prevalent weather. Farmers from Bandarwala and Valimada are the most affected, as they say that the leeks cultivation were destroyed. Vegetable cultivations in Badula too were affected badly.
Other local news now. Former Southern Provincial Councillor, Attorney at Law Maitri Gururatna, speaking in our political discussion program Face the Nation last night, said that the Attorney General's department has to make it clear its stand on avant-garde.
If someone other than a member of the security forces has been in possession of an automatic weapon, or weapons for that matter, then there is a need to investigate it and see how they have come upon it, because the laws of this country now, if you are in possession of a cartridge, a bullet of a T-56, I mean you're prosecuted under the Offensive Weapons Act. You have no bail. You have to go to the High Court to get bail. So these are interesting things where I suppose the Attorney General is having two different scales. When it's the common man, he has to go in the possession of a cartridge, or if they find a bullet in his garden, there are numerous occasions they have taken and produced them before the magistrate, and they have to go to the High Court to get bail. So are they following two different standards? Now these are issues which the Attorney General will have to answer honestly, because this department, I have been a member of that department. The Attorney General's department, I mean their opinions are treated with the highest respect. But if they are going to contradict their own opinions, if two people are saying two different things, I mean God help the Chief Law Officer of the state.
The National Movement to Protect the Rights of the Consumer urges the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, to expedite the investigations against 6 individuals, including the former Director General of the Consumer Affairs Authority. The movement notes that the said individuals had travelled abroad under the sponsorship of a soft drink importer.
In the recent past, the Consumer Affairs Authority conducted raids citing that a certain soft drink that was imported and sold in the country had intoxicating chemicals in it. The raids were carried out when the drink was available around several schools. The National Movement to Protect the Rights of the Consumer says that investigations should be launched to identify the fact that the investigations were swept under the carpet, and 6 individuals in the Consumer Affairs Authority, including the former Director General obtaining leave to travel overseas, are connected.
This importer operated in Bodhirajamawatha in Petha. A raid was carried out in the past. The overseas tour was undertaken under the sponsorship of that businessman. Why we do this is because the Consumer Affairs Authority is the institute that is present to protect the consumer. If such activities are taking place, then that is unfortunate.
Allegations have been raised against few senior officials of the authority, including the Director General. In addition, allegations have been raised against the Human Resource Director, Finance Director, Deputy Director in charge of raids, and a few other assistant directors. All the individuals are in the level of directors. We ask that an investigation be held swiftly, because if action is not taken against the directors in high ranks, a situation where the Consumer Affairs Authority becomes deteriorated can arise.
We requested the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, to conduct an investigation on how a group of officers who hold responsibilities were granted leave together, and on what grounds, and whether this was informed to the Prime Minister's office, or whether it was referred to the relevant officers that can grant permission for their leave. We also requested that the connection between the said businessman and these 6 officials be investigated based on their phone records. In addition, we requested that an investigation be launched into whether these officials have adequate income to go abroad.
The former Director General of the Consumer Affairs Authority, against whom allegations are being raised, currently serves in a high post at another state institution. When inquired, he stated that the foreign trip was made with his personal income. He added that he will present facts at the Bribery Commission with regards to how he engaged in the tour. When inquired from the Deputy Director of the Consumer Affairs Authority, against whom allegations are levelled, he stated that this is something that is done to sling mud at him. He added that he requests the complainant to name the company from which the alleged bribe was obtained, and went on to say that cases have been filed with regard to all the raids he has conducted. We asked that a special investigation be carried out to find the truth behind this. The complaint lodged at the Bribery Commission has not been investigated. The Consumer Affairs Authority has not held an investigation.
And up next we have Action TV.
The police carried out investigations into a building that was bulldozed in the Dhammakusala Vidyalaya premises in Ambalangoda 5 years ago. The Alpitia Police Special Crimes Investigations Division had summoned the principal of the Dhammakusala Vidyalaya, who worked in his capacity during that time period, to obtain an account into the incident. Action TV exposed last week the degrading ways that were employed by officers of the South to enroll students to the Dhammakusala Vidyalaya, which is considered as one of the schools that provides easy entry to deprived students who live in the coastline. The attempts to close down the school in the year 2000 was prevented by then President. However, the school was closed down in 2011 following a report which was formulated citing the reasons for the closure. The 2 reasons that were cited on the report for the closure of the school: A, the non-efficiency of the then principal, and B, the identification of a school student going astray. Presidential Investigations Unit and the Education Department attached to the South were in the process of conducting an investigation at the time when the school was closed down. This investigation was centered on the police investigations that were carried out into the collapsing of a building which completes 3 years today. The principal, who was functioning in the capacity at the time when the school closed down and who was summoned to obtain a statement by the police today, said that the school was closed down after a team of administrative officers of the Southern Education Department had entered the school premises and obtained a set of documents at a time he had gone out of school on duty.
They questioned me for about an hour and a half. The 4020 building was what was permission given for by the Secretary to be removed. The building which was authorized to be removed is still present as it was. The 120 building was the one that was removed, while another building was permitted to be removed. Apart from police investigations, there are many units that are carrying out investigations. I received a letter this morning from a state administration department requesting cooperation as there are investigations being conducted in this regard. Therefore, I will give my fullest support for this.
Disciplinary measures against this individual is being lagged behind for 4 years as an administrative officer of the Southern Education Department had misplaced the documents pertaining to the charges levelled against him. The officer in question retired last Wednesday. Among the letters that were misplaced was a letter that permitted the removal of a dilapidated building from the school premises. A building that was in good condition is now being bulldozed following instructions by the former Deputy Chairman of the Ambalangoda Municipal Council to do so. In the year 2012, the Chief Minister of the Southern Province gave his assurance at the Court of Appeal that the school in question will be reopened in 2014. Police investigations being conducted in this regard in the backdrop of such eroded promises is not only for the betterment of the education in the South, but for the whole country.
The Deshabandhu Vidya Jyoti Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe Memorial Lecture was held in Colombo yesterday. The event was organized by the Civil Engineering Sectional Committee of the Institution of Engineers, Sri Lanka.
Terminate services in the event of failure by one or both parties.
The lecture was delivered by the chairman of Mendes Kuben Consultants, Engineer Malit Mendes. The memorial lecture was held at the Vimala Surendra Auditorium of the Institute of Engineers of Sri Lanka. The theme of the lecture was Dispute Boards and their Dispute Avoidance Role. Entering the field of engineering in 1940, Dr. Kulasinghe rendered an immense service to the field of engineering in Sri Lanka for a period of 65 years. Dr. Kulasinghe is also the designer of the Kalutara Chaitya and the planetarium. The father of the pre-stressed concrete technology, Dr. Kulasinghe also searched for technological solutions to the world oil crisis, and he explored several alternative energy sources. Deshabandhu Vidyajyoti, Dr. A.N.S. Kulasinghe passed away in February 2005.
The cost to import crude oil to the country over the past 8 months has dropped by 48% compared to the same period last year.
According to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, $348.5 million was spent on importing crude oil to the country during the first 8 months of 2014. However, this year, only $1,783.33 million had been spent for the same time period. Comparative to last year, $1,659.2 million have been saved in importing crude oil in 2015. In 2014, the market price of a barrel of crude oil was around $100 to $115, but this year the price was roughly around $40 to $60. Currently, the price of a barrel of crude oil is $47, the lowest price recorded in the past 6 years, according to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
The footage you witness explains the way in which the trees located in the land which was allocated for cultivation in Beheragatte-Gama, Bogaswewa, Vaunia were cut down. MP Palitha Theora Peruma visited the area today to look into the destruction that had been caused.
This area was allocated for the farmers 3 years ago under the Mahaveli Development Project. However, the farmers pointed out that the trees had to be cut down to make room for cultivation on this land. The farmers pointed out that there are no officials to resolve their issues, as a Grama Niladhari officer fails to provide them any assistance.
Kaluvara is known as an uncommon plant. The law does not allow the cutting down of the Kaluvara plant even in a home garden. Even if the home garden is full of these trees cannot be cut down. It is a national offence.
The Timber Corporation was not notified about this.
There is no provision to live. There is no school, nothing to eat and no place to live. Therefore, people have been made helpless for the past 3 years. Thereafter, a team comprising the MP engaged in a tour around Pansalkanda, Kokilai. The MP took measures to hold discussions with the State Minister of Mahaveli Development and Environment, Anuradha Jayarapna, over the phone in this regard.
This is a national crime. We also toured around Kalutara. The trees were destroyed completely. In order to provide farmers with lands, there is no water as well.
Thereafter, the MP also spoke to the Director General of Wildlife Conservation, Anura Singha, over the phone in order to discuss the ways in which a solution could be provided to this issue.
We were there for about 3 hours. They had destroyed all the trees. The trees which were left for the birds are now being used as firewood.
I will now send a team including the police to carry out investigations.
That brings an end to this edition of Weekend Primetime News on Newsfirst. We leave you tonight with details of one lucky individual who's miraculously survived a tragic accident. Good night.
This accident had taken place at the Molligoda railway crossing in Vadua. The car had come into contact with the second compartment of the train that was plying from Colombo to Kalutara. Although the car is beyond repair, the driver miraculously survived the incident. This survivor, who is a senior officer at a private institution, met with the accident en route to attend a workshop.